Production of Glory 93.9 FM.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street.
Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women.
Wardrobe provided by Bahari Bahamas. Visit shopbahari.com. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm. As always, it's a pleasure to be in your company. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, we are going to be looking at part 2 in our Taxation series. I'm calling today's show Robin Hood in Reverse. Robin Hood in reverse. We all know the story of Robin Hood, right? Robin Hood was the guy who used to steal from the rich to give to the poor. Well, the reason I'm calling this show Robin Hood in reverse is because we see the exact opposite going on, where the poor are being plundered to benefit the rich. And one of the ways that it seems that this is happening is through taxation. We know that the leaders of our country have no problem slapping taxes on the masses. No problem at all. But when it comes to taxing the rich, then that's another story. We've seen where a decision was made and one letter is sent from Life at Key and start backtracking. So what's that about? Today, we are talking about Robin Hood in reverse. Why are the masses being plundered, it seems, to benefit the wealthy? My guests this morning are, let's add him to the stream, Andrew Allen. Andrew is an attorney at law, member of the Bahamas Bar Association, and practicing counsel and attorney at law, specializing primarily in commercial law and conveyancing. He also has business interests. He's a shareholder and director of Global Nexus Limited, a telecommunications company. And he is a regular contributor to editorial commentary in the Bahamas. And from 1999 to 2007 was a weekly columnist in the Tribune, one of the two main dailies in the Bahamas. He's multilingual, including English and Spanish, but we're going to be speaking all English this morning. Mr. Allen, welcome back to GPS.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Also joining us this morning, no stranger to most of you, he is a social activist, always has a lot to say as far as political commentary is concerned. And now he's decided that he can do more than talk. He's jumping in the game. Kendall Colebrook, better known to most of you as KCX, has decided to throw his hat in the ring, and he's going to be contending in the next election as an independent candidate because he says enough is enough. And so KCX is joining me on the show today. Mr. Colebrook.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
I need you to pull that microphone a little closer to your mouth, okay? Because everybody want to hear exactly what you got to
Yes,
say.
yes.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you both here. All right, so Robin Hood in reverse. Hope you all like my title. But I see you already shaking your head, Mr. Allen.
Shaking
What are you thinking? Huh?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. Yes.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head in agreement. It is the perfect title. It sums up exactly the policy direction this country has been on for a very long time. And just to note, within the last few weeks, something took place that very few in the media took note of. Bahamas Air, which has been, like most airlines, losing revenues, did the exact reverse of what most airlines that lose revenue do. Most airlines that lose revenues drop their prices. That's what they do globally. They drop their fares. Bahamas Air raised their fares but only on domestic routes. So only Bahamians, only generally the poorer people living in the outlying islands of the Bahamas are now saddled with higher fares, and they drop their fares for international travel. Those few foreigners who are wealthy enough to be traveling during this global meltdown are now the recipients of a transfer of wealth from poor Bahamians. Robin Hood.
In reverse.
In reverse, absolutely.
Why are we so comfortable in plundering the masses? And any of you can jump in to benefit the few wealthy. Why is it that we are so comfortable doing this? What is that about?
History. History that's not been reversed. It originates in something that conditions that no longer exist. If you hear politicians speak, can you hear me well, Michelle? Because this is new.
We can hear you. I'm getting some static. I'm not sure if that's from you.
Okay.
That is from him. Yeah, we are getting some static. But go ahead.
This is a new microphone.
Okay. Take out the, let's see if that makes it any better.
Is that better?
No, take it out of the device. Okay, go ahead and speak now.
Better?
Yes, that's better. That's better.
Basically, it comes from history, but the arguments that are today given by politicians for the main plank of the Robin Hood in reverse phenomenon that we have, which is a lack of income tax, a lack of taxes, a tax-free environment on wealth, on income, which is subsidized by high taxes on consumption and on the average citizen, and especially on the poorer citizens. The main justification is a fabrication, which is that it is somehow good for the economy that we have today. It isn't. There are 15 countries with no income tax, of which the Bahamas is one. With the exception of the Bahamas is an exception. All of these countries fall into three categories. Either they are oil wealthy countries that derive their revenues directly from oil sales. They are microstates with less than 100,000 population, or they are Somalia, which is the third category, which is a failed state and doesn't have income tax for the same reason it doesn't have any other form of social infrastructure. So the Bahamas is the odd man out in that group because it doesn't fit. It doesn't benefit from not having income tax because the traditional argument given for not having income tax is that it somehow brings in money to fuel the economy. Foreigners who are operating or living in the Bahamas, who are not deriving their income from the domestic economy, would not be paying income tax anyway if we had an income tax. Income tax is something that is paid on monies that are made in the Bahamas, in the domestic economy. So the only people that benefit from a lack of income tax in the Bahamas are wealthier Bahamians. And very few Bahamians realize this. So when you hear your politicians saying, "Oh, we can't get rid of we can't bring an income tax because then we'll scare away investors," they don't know what they're talking about. These are very ignorant and simply uninformed people. So the next time you hear a politician say that, just challenge them. Say that's complete misinformation. You don't know what you're talking about. Please back it up with something.
Well, sorry, go ahead. Finish the point.
There is no argument to be made for economic benefit to the Bahamas from some of these other countries, yes. In Cayman Islands and British Virgin Islands, etc., These are microstates that don't really have a domestic economy, and foreigners are attracted there to do the things that they're not allowed to do here. A foreigner can't come here and set up as a lawyer, a doctor, a shoe store, start selling, food on the side of the street. A foreigner can't. Our domestic economy is protected by a policy of Bahamianization, thank goodness. So the only people that benefit from no taxes on income are people with higher incomes. I benefit. Most lawyers would benefit. The average person is punished by that policy because what it means is that the Bahamas, which is, you hear sometimes people say, oh, we spend too much. That's another. The next time you hear a politician say that we spend too much, ask him for some figures. They don't have them. They don't know what they're talking about. The Bahamas spends, as a proportion of its GDP, between 17 and 18% of its GDP in revenues, right? The average is 43, 44%. The US is between 38 and 42%. Nowhere that you can think of spends as little as a proportion of its wealth than the Bahamas. But what it does spend is a huge, huge burden on the average person, because of that 17%, 80% of it is made up of taxes on duties, taxes on consumption, and all these new fares and fees that they're introducing left, right, and center. So the reason that we have it is because we've always had it, because that's the way Stafford Sands and the others left it. And under them, we had a different economy. We didn't have Bahamianization. So it would have prevented foreigners, it would have attracted foreigners here who wanted to come here and set up in the professions and all the rest. Today, that's prohibited. The only people that benefit from no taxes are wealthier Bahamians, essentially. No taxes on income. No tax real property, or low tax on real property is a different issue.
So one of the things that you said a moment ago is that it needs to be challenged. And the gentleman sitting with me in the studio is known for challenging the status quo. So KCX, let's get you in on this conversation. You heard what Mr. Allen just had to say. In your view, why is it that our leaders are so comfortable? And we're not just talking about this present administration, but why is it that our leaders are so comfortable in plundering the masses in order to benefit the wealthy few? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me first say, I just want to say, Mr. Allen, I just love your commentary. I can sit and listen to you talk all day. I've shared that with you before. I have him in a few of my WhatsApp groups. And every contribution that he makes, it just goes viral because he has a lot of wealth of knowledge, especially in areas of taxation, fair taxation, and the Robin Hood in reverse. Mm-hmm. But what we have in this country is a system that is working perfectly. Mr. Allen understands the taxation and how it should work in other countries. But I don't know if he knows about the treaties that we've signed. And I heard him say, and he made mention of foreigners not being able to come in the country and set up shop. We've lost all of those provisions to be protected, for industries to be protected, because we're signing on to this one world government, the WTO. We've been fighting this from 2 administrations now. And all of those provisions that protected Bahamians, they're gone.
They're going, yes. I agree with you. They're going.
Yeah, not going, they're gone.
Well,
there is no industry. Imagine this. The Bahamas government, and this is not a sidetrack, the Bahamas government, especially this administration, they brag on how many citizenships they've given. You understand what citizenships mean? You know how many Chinese now are Bahamians? How many foreigners are Bahamians? And when you see a foreigner open a store, you might think that's a foreigner. That's a Bahamian. Mm-hmm. I heard you mention this also. We've been playing with the sanctity of being a Bahamian. We don't value something, a piece of document saying that you're a Bahamian. We give it. There's something called the Commercial Enterprise Act.
Which is actually a crime. That act is a crime. That act
is a crime.
That act is an economic crime against the interests of Bahamians. I don't know what kind of sane government could let it pass. The act simply was an attempt to reverse Bahamianization. It was simply an attempt to say it was a failure to understand our economy to start with. It won't work. It won't help. How is it going to help? The one company that claimed to have come in as a result of it that I heard of was a company called GIBC in Grand Bahama. It's gone now. Look, you won't find it in the phone book. This company came here, and the Commercial Enterprises Act was supposedly allowing people to just come in and set up. And I think KCX, as you said, you and I spoke recently about, after 2 weeks, if you apply for a work permit under, and this is part of what you're talking about, if you apply for a work permit to come in and work under the Commercial Enterprise Act as a registrant of that act, after 2 weeks, if there's no reply, you could just come and set up.
Yeah.
You know, many Haitians would love to have that, but it's all directed at another demographic. You know, but it made no sense. This company came, they set up, and then they immediately went to Nassau and appeared in all these talk shows trying to drum up business in the Bahamas, because that's what they were here for, to make money off of the Bahamas, like everybody else. And they fooled the government into thinking they were coming to bring money to the Bahamas. They were coming to make money in the Bahamas, to compete inside the Bahamas. They were a company that specialized in giving in business solutions to businesses, letting businesses find new ways of you know, online and sort of digital marketing, etc. And they immediately started reaching out to Bahamian companies as customers. And now it's gone. I mean, I don't know why, but they certainly didn't bring any impact to the Bahamas. That act is a crime. I agree with you wholeheartedly, KCX. And I also agree with you that it is moving. But we still do have the vestiges, thank goodness, of Bahamianization. Foreigners complain still that they can't come in here and do this and do that like they can do in Cayman Islands and Turks and Caicos. Every time they do it, my heart sings. Every time I hear a foreign client complain, "Oh, this isn't like the Cayman Islands or the Turks and Caicos," I'm like, "Oh, really?" But privately, I'm overjoyed because I don't want it ever to be where you can just come in and set up business and the work and all a Bahamian will ever be is a worker for you. I believe this country is made for Bahamians and to be built by Bahamians principally. But so you're right, KCX. I mean, we're losing it. We haven't lost it all. We
Well,
still do have huge inconveniences for foreigners trying to operate here, and we will lose it all. You're right again if we're remiss, because this government seems to be in a hurry to get us there.
well, what I know you were in Grand Bahama the other day,
Hmm.
and I wish we had hooked up so I could have taken you down to the shipyard at 5 o'clock in the morning. You have thousands of expat workers going to work because of this Commercial Enterprise Act. What I say to a lot of people that don't visit Grand Bahama is you don't get a chance to see the model that this system that they're creating, that they want this model, a failed model for Bahamians. They want this on every island in the Bahamas. For instance, the other day, right here in Nassau, when they sold the port, that was a transnational company they sold it to. And now they're able, and then with all the Commercial Enterprise Act, they don't need to hire Bahamians. They can bring in their own staff. The same model that has failed Grand Bahama is what they're trying to bring. This is why I'm so versed on where the government is headed, because I've seen the movie before. I've seen the act. This is what they want. And I go down there and these people can't speak a lick of English. And the only people working on it is a security guard to the gate.
Only Bahamian, you mean?
No, the only Bahamian. And they give you the premise that we will train you to sandblast a ship. We'll train you to spray a ship. We'll train you to do the medial stuff. But then within a few months, you're fired. Under the previous administration, and this is what I tip my hat for, they trained over 600 young men and women for those jobs. When this administration came into power, that program was stopped and every one of those people were let go. Young men and women. When I confronted Mr. Turnquest on a platform, and I said to him, how do you justify our young men and women staying at home while all of these people are coming to this country and working? And he says these words: "Are you aware that they pay national insurance?
Yeah.
Are you aware that they pay rent? They contribute to our economy."
They keep wages suppressed because these are people that come from Peru, etc., low-income countries. They keep wages suppressed. That was what they were first brought in here for. But you know, and going back to taxes per se, Michelle, these things are always a threat that we're going to have foreign entrance into our economy. But our tax structure, basically since independence, has always been based on the false premise that that the economy is that there is no distinction between the domestic and the overseas economy in the Bahamas, which there is and there should be, and we have to maintain. Not having income taxes and yet having high taxes on, and I'll just refer you to there's a website that advertises called Global Nomad Capitalists, advertises the kind of people who go around looking for a country without income tax. And they talk about the Bahamas among the others, and they say, well, the Bahamas, no income tax, no, and very low taxes on property, which that would really be the attraction of the Bahamas, because you can't come here and, as I say, easily set up as a professional, for instance. But the main attraction is people that want to come here, buy property, and pay very little or no taxes on the property, etc. They say, although it's a low tax country for people like they're advertised to, wealthy people, once you get there, it's actually a very expensive country. What does that tell you? It's expensive on the locals all year round. It's expensive on the locals always. And the reason it's a low tax country, income tax country, the reason it's an expensive country is in large measure because it is a tax-free country on the wealthy. That's why we have such taxes on everything else. That's why we have 12% VAT. And that's why the government now is heading into an election, because they're faced with the dilemma of not being able to borrow more money. They have a huge revenue problem right now, huge fiscal problem, but they're not going to be able to borrow money because anybody they go to is going to say either cut spending or readjust your taxes. They're not going to readjust the taxes. The only way they'll readjust them is to increase VAT, and they're not going to introduce progressive taxes. And
Well,
they know if you cut, what's that?
No, I was going to say, finish your thought, and then we'll go to the break.
And so you see over and over again the same pattern repeating itself. The country gets more and more expensive for the average person, more unlivable. Wages don't go up as they should, and we keep this pretense that somehow we're benefiting from having no income tax, which we're not at all.
All right. You mentioned VAT. We're going to talk more about VAT in detail on the other side of this break, and it's going to get hot, y'all. So if you haven't already done so, like and share this show. Like and share this show, because we all need to be talking about this. Let everybody know that GPS is on the air, and we are talking about Robin Hood in reverse, plundering the poor to benefit the rich. What is going on? Stay with us. We'll get on that conversation on the other side of the break.
Located on Carmichael Road, Divine Designs Hair Boutique is a haven for women and men looking for professional beauty services. Our state-of-the-art and contemporary equipment creates a relaxing ambiance for you to enjoy while we cater to you. Need a hairstylist? We cater to all types and textures of hair for care and styling. We even have a barber on duty. Need a nail tech? Our technicians provide a range of nail services, including the latest trends. Unwind in one of our massage chairs while you get your pedicure. With our reasonable rates, friendly staff, and over 20 years of experience, you will be in great hands. Call us at 823-1669 or 698-1025 to schedule your appointment. Want to be pampered? Want to be slayed? Let Divine Designs make your day.
At Lee Air, safety is our #1 priority. Flying since 1996, we offer scheduled flights into Fresh Creek and Mangrove Key Andros and Great Harbor Key, Berry Island, twice daily, 7 days a week. Affordable charter services are also available to anywhere in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Lee Air Charter Services. Call 225-3267, 702-7127, or 322-1317 for reservations. For all your building needs, it's Carib Construction and Project Management on Gladstone Road. We build it all: schools, homes, hotels, and more, including structures requiring a Phase 3 electrical contractor. We also provide project management services. The first step towards your dream building begins at Carib Construction and Project Management. Call us at 376-1556 or 341-4466.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm. My guests today are attorney Andrew Allen and activist now turned politician as an independent candidate in the next election, KCX. And we're talking taxation, Robin Hood in reverse. Why is it that successive governments and successive leaders have felt so comfortable plundering the poor, it seems, to benefit the wealthy? That's what we're talking about today. And, VAT is a big part of this conversation because, as we all know, the VAT was introduced by the Christie administration. And at that time, initially, he wanted to introduce it at 15%, and people told him, you've got to be kidding. And he came in at, I think, 7.5%. And then the then opposition had a lot to say about what was wrong with this whole situation, this whole question of VAT. And they had a whole lot to say. And KCX just happened to put together a video that he sent to me. And I want y'all to listen carefully to this because this dialogue that was happening in the House of Assembly was taking place at the time that the now Free National Movement government was in opposition. They were the official opposition at the time. This was under the Christie administration. And this whole idea of VAT was being discussed in the House of Assembly. And it's very interesting now to look back in hindsight and hear some of the things that the Free National Movement was saying at the time when they were opposition, comparing it to what is actually happening now. Let's go to that clip.
Prime Minister Perry Christie has vowed to detail the spending of revenue from value-added tax and present it to every nook and cranny of the Bahamas in short order.
25% of our government revenue comes from VAT. This ain't no rocket science. I mean, what's so hard about that? A grade one student could understand that.
If his numbers are correct, that means that the Treasury is collecting at least $2.4 billion a year, which means that we should be operating a surplus and not a deficit, which means then that the budget that we came here to debate, which says that they expect to collect $1.9 billion, is off by some $500 million according to his poor math. And I am hurt because the children who were just here today, who look up to him as the Minister of Education, they expect him to know math. And he doesn't even understand that the figure he gave just now totally blows a hole into the budget projections of this very same government.
You cannot say that it paid for these things that the Bahamian people know we borrowed money for and that we are paying the price for today in our junk status rating. You can't say that, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the Bahamian people have a right to ask the question, where is the VAT money going? Because that's not the premise that they were sold for the implementation of it. They said it was going to reduce the debt.
matters that we will show, right? And we will detail it, we'll present the graphs, and we'll present it in every nook and cranny of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. So nobody has to ask where the MAT money is.
Well, here's the bottom line. The Bahamas government is about to announce that we are going to have to pay more taxes. Bahamians, we don't know where our tax dollars are going now. Over $8.5 billion has been collected since 2015, January 1st. Let us do our part. Let us ask them, where is the VAT money? From 2015 to 2020, the Bahamas government has collected over $8.5 billion in value-added tax, and not one penny was paid on the national debt. Remember, that was the reason the government asked us to sacrifice, to pay more money, to pay down the national debt, and not one penny was paid on the national debt. So why should we have to pay value-added tax? And why should we agree to pay more? If the government can't give an account, give us an account on where the VAT money is gone. That's all we request. Don't come to the Bahamian people asking us to pay more in value-added tax, especially when oil companies pay no taxes, pharmaceutical companies pay no taxes, transnational companies pay no taxes. It is ludicrous. Time to change the system where only the poor people pay taxes in this country.
So just as a disclaimer, that is a video that was produced by KCX. So all the commentary you see in the video about who was the best MP and all that kind of stuff, that's KCX, okay? But that video, oh my God. I mean, let's honestly now, when you hear the then opposition talking, and you now fast forward to 2021, and that opposition is now the government, and we still don't know where the VAT money going. Remember, that was a big slogan that helped them to win that last election. Where the VAT money gone? That's all you was hearing. They came into power, and then they had to admit that money was not stolen as they thought, as they were not, I shouldn't say thought, as they were sort of inferring during the election campaign. But the question still remains, even now that they are in power, where the VAT money gone again? So this is something I need us to look at, because I am hearing rumblings. I think, Mr. Allen, you were the one who brought it to my attention, that they're now talking about raising this VAT again.
They would like to. They would
like to. So where is money going? $8.5 billion with a B? And we are not getting any accounting for where this money is going?
Right. I would look at it somewhat differently. I look at it like this. All monies in the Bahamas go into one place. They go into the consolidated fund.
Right.
So all taxes here collected, we don't have all these different taxing authorities that are separately, dispensing funds. They all go into the consolidated fund, right? Whatever, and the accounting of it, I'll leave to those who, we bring in. We do need to have, accounting for what takes place. But the Bahamas is massively underfunded. It's not overfunded, it's underfunded. The Bahamas doesn't collect as much revenues as it should, but it's collecting it from the wrong places. And this is what neither side of the political arena seems to understand, that when they talk about sacrifice, there is absolutely no reason in the world for the middle or lower class Bahamians to sacrifice anything. They are paying more than they should be paying. If anything, taxes should be readjusted to be reduced on the poor and the middle class, because they are paying above international norms, while the rich are paying vastly below international norms. And as KCX rightly says, some of these companies come in and are paying no taxes at all. None, I mean, you have a situation where, and nobody in the government seems to, as I say, they don't seem to think about things very, very hard. You have the Minister of Tourism boasting that, which one of the cruise companies? Is it Holland America? Whichever one has that Coco Key and Berry Islands. That is their number one destination on the planet Earth. They're boasting. and yet they have a 100% tax concession on VAT for how many years? They have tax breaks. Why does somebody need a tax break to come and make a killing? It doesn't make any sense. Of course, they'll tell you that if they can get away with it, and their shareholders can get even more money. But the tax concessions given to multinationals operating in the Bahamas are obscene. Romy Ferreira just said so yesterday in Parliament. However, the government that he's a part of, he said that BPL deal was, I think, the worst oil deal in history. How little we were getting out of it. But the government that he's a part of was endorsing it and pretending as if they couldn't do anything about it. The previous government obviously negotiated a bad deal. Because politicians of both stripes follow an agenda. Well, as you know, I make a big distinction between the two parties. I think one knows what they're doing and their intentions are bad, and the other one doesn't, just lost. The FNM, they're working for people whose intentions are who are served by this kind of setup. They're working for people. They're funded by people who are served by this kind of setup. So the FNM isn't going to even pretend as if they're going to introduce income tax or anything. Now, why the PLP follows, I don't quite know. My only thought is that they Mr. Ingram had a very powerful political persona in the Bahamas, and I think that to a certain extent that has his influence sort of reached into both parties to some extent, because the agenda since '92 is we're still living in a world crafted by Hubert Ingram's economic philosophy, and that economic philosophy was deeply.
Casey, what are your thoughts on this?
It's amazing. He mentioned Hubert Ingram. Hubert Ingram is where it really started in 2001. It was negotiated in 2019. Again, I love this conversation because he's talking about the taxation, and he's not able to distinguish. He is able to distinguish the difference between the two administrations. But what happened is back in 2001, when we made a session to become a part of the One World Government, the WTO, these things were these are ironclad deals. You can't get out of them. So no matter how bad you might want, or I might want the PLP, because I campaigned and I campaigned and I voted for them. And when you come across information, you got to make an adjustment. And because they can't, these are binding agreements. If you go back even before 1995, we were operating under something called the GATT, the General Agreement of Tariff and Trade. And those agreements were not binding, and they didn't have a non-discrimination policy that you had to get every country the same treatment, so that the most favored nations. So we didn't have to do that, but now we have to do it. So no matter who takes over in any one of those political parties, they have to follow suit. I know if you saw the video I put out with Hubert Ingram on the stage, and he said, "You understand that the FNM sold BTC, but you understand that the PLP had to sell it too. They were going to sell it because one of the prerequisites in the WTO is you have to liberalize your telecommunications, and that.
But we're not in the WTO.
No, I'm saying once you make a cession to it, you got to liberalize your.
What I disagree with is that
what I did is I showed the document. Mm-hmm. I showed the documents. I shared it with you also. Mm-hmm. That these are agreements that what we must understand, that the Bahamas even pays to be a part of most. Are you aware that the Bahamas pays to be a part of the IMF from 1973?
Yeah.
That's
but the Bahamas, there's nothing to stop the Bahamian government saying we're not interested in pursuing membership of the WTO.
Agree. There is nothing.
Away, Mr. Ingram, and to show where I mean, the country has been in Mr. Ingram's made over in Mr. Ingram's image since 92, and nobody really challenges it.
Exactly.
Mr. Christie came into power after Mr. Ingram gave away Batelco. I mean,
yes, gave away.
If this were a serious country, there would have been a trial over that. But the media doesn't pay attention to that. They're paying attention to who Peter Nygaard is sleeping with, and they don't pay attention to the media. Just the important stuff happens, and they just act like nothing happened. There should have been a trial following Mr. Ingram's giveaway of Batelco. It was a crime against the Bahamas, and the circumstances of it and the repercussions of it we're feeling today. Mr. Christie came to power and pretended as if he was going to do something about it. and by fiddling around with one share. I don't know if you remember. Sitting
No,
one shares
yes,
note.
we remember.
I would have just said, okay, bye. I'm changing the whole thing. Next day, we're giving you this is how much we think we're going to give you. Goodbye. There's nonsense about, oh, then foreign investors wouldn't come. Okay, I dare you not to come, and then to go to sleep the next morning. Foreign investors are there ready to do business. It's nonsense, and it's a complete lie that the Bahamas has to have stood by that bad deal. We should have undid what Mr. Ingram did, told those guys go away, given them what we think was fair, and then we don't have any interest in selling our telecommunications sector to anybody else. So we don't care what the outside world thinks about that. We don't care about junk status. Why do we care in the Bahamas about what lenders think? We have no reason to be borrowing anything from anybody. We have so much money in this country to be taxing that we haven't touched the surface of it. We don't have any interest in what anybody thinks about our credit worthiness. We have no interest in anybody thinks about us as a place where investors come. We've never had a difficulty in attracting investors. In fact, we've often had too many, and it's a lie they sell you. So the idea that we have to continue the accession talks, although the government backed down, and KCX, I commend you and others who created the conditions to frighten them out of actually signing on. They backed down, but there's no reason the Bahamas doesn't say, listen, we have no interest ever joining the WTO. The rest of the world joins it. That's fine for the rest of the world. Great. We're not interested.
I'm going to challenge you. I want you to understand that you have more to offer. You have so much to offer this country. Publicly, I'm saying this to you. We need people like you in government leading this country, sir. I've been fighting for a while, and I know I was going to challenge you when I knew you were coming on.
Well,
you have a lot to offer this country. You have a lot to offer, and we need people like you in the front line, sir.
Well, it's not about me. It's just so much so.
It's not about you. Your talents, your gifts.
It sounds like he's trying to recruit you to become one of those independents, but you all got to do that off air, okay?
Point, KCX, and you and I have discussed before is we have people running the country who don't see the country for what it is, and they accept anybody's. I think they take third parties, outside parties, ideas of what the country is and what its needs are and what its and what its strengths are. The idea that we have to, to say that, and the telco deal is just one example, just a small example. If you look at, for instance, the port, you talked about the port, global ports, taking over the Prince George Wharf. You're half right that this is a multinational taking over, but there's also an element of a few Bahamian families that are still going to be involved in that mix, the same ones that are involved with Arawak. So it's not. It's even worse than just being taken over by multinationals. It's a compounding of the Bahamas' old ossified social structure being brought over into the new era, right? So if you look at a deal like that, right, our government goes to the outside world with this idea as if they're begging, oh, we wanted some jobs, and of course people react in kind, and they'll tell you we're gonna give you some jobs, they're gonna give you some low-end jobs, and they react in kind. You want to create jobs in this country? Do you know what you'd do if you wanted to create jobs in this country? You'd raise the minimum wage, and you'd cut taxes on consumption, and you would introduce income tax, because that way the common man would have money in his pocket, and that's what drives consumption. The international economy in the Bahamas is doing fine, and it always has been. It's the domestic economy in the Bahamas that's hurting, and the domestic economy is driven by how much money the average person has in his pocket. So it doesn't matter how many Bahamars you bring here. If it doesn't matter how many container ports or whatever you bring here. If the benefit isn't crossing over through increased wages and through taxation being rebalanced on the wealthy productive sectors, then you're always going to have low unemployment. And then because you have low unemployment, you run to you sell yourself as a beggar to the world, and then you get terms that ensure that you continue with low unemployment. This is the cycle. We present ourselves as if we're job beggars.
I want to read a comment from one of our Facebook viewers. This is Stacy. Stacy says, We don't need any more tax. We didn't need VAT. VAT was implemented due to poor money management and misappropriation of funds. Gentlemen, how do you respond to that?
Well,
That's sold by people. That sounds like a smart argument. That's sold to you by people that don't have your interest in. That's sold to you by the very rich and their agents. They tell you the only problem is people are mismanaging. You have quite enough money. No, we don't have enough money, tax money in this country. I agree that you don't mismanage it when you get it. VAT was introduced because the government has a preference for taxing the poor over taxing the rich. That's why VAT was introduced. There is a serious need for the Bahamas to raise the level of income that it makes relative to it. This is a wealthy country. It's not a half wealthy country. It's a truly wealthy country. It's a very expensive country. Everything is inflated in the Bahamas. Haven't you seen that? I mean, look at the cost. Look, walk into a food store. Everything's inflated. We need our revenues to reflect our status. Even if they were 30%, way low below world standards, we'd have vastly more money in our coffers. Our schools will be better funded. Our hospitals, we only have one now. You can't even be born on most family islands. You have to come to Nassau now. For the first time ever, the whole population of the Bahamas read their passports, say born New Providence. We do not have the level of services commensurate what we deserve and can afford in this country. And so when people tell you, oh, it's just a question of mismanaging, I know when I hear like the person that said that probably has the best intentions and is right that, that we were lied to get us into VAT. But I think you're mischaracterizing the lie. The lie is that anytime there's a need for funds to be raised, they have to be raised on the back of the poor and the middle class. It has to be consumption taxes. We did not need that. We don't need it now. We don't need the level of duties that we have. We need the rich to stop paying their bills, paying their fair share. We need real property taxes, which I passed over to real property, counted, what is it, $300 million outstanding in the exumas, in like more than $100 billion in Ocean Club estates alone. Baker's Bay, $80 million, outstanding real property tax, some outstanding by 20 years, owned by foreigners. Government won't enforce it. They won't take away properties. They won't bring. They have a limit on the amount of real property tax that can be paid on luxury property of $50,000. I have clients in the United States that pay $600,000, $700,000 every year in real property tax because they are very, very rich people that own very expensive properties. These same people own, $15, $20 million islands and properties in the Bahamas and have a limit of $50,000, which they don't need. So that person who writing on Facebook is being hit with that, so that my client who's paying $600,000 in the US can pay $50,000 here, which he probably won't pay anyway. Most people don't pay. I think the average luxury property in the Bahamas, I'm talking about non-Bahamian owned property. That's all I'm concerned. I don't think Bahamians should pay real property tax at all. The average luxury property in the Exumas, the Abacos, owned by non-Bahamians is delinquent a year or two, or 10 or 15, and some 20.
Mr. Allen, I heard you spoke in a voice note about the government of the Bahamas making it almost impossible now to repossess those property. You want to touch on that?
That was under Mr. Christie's government. See, and so it's not truly, it's not all political. I mean, I think this is, as I say, the thrust that this country has taken since '92 is being repeated by both parties. The PLP doesn't do enough to reverse it. In 2015, see, and these are things. I mean, how could nobody brought this to the attention of the media? 2015, a little provision was introduced in the Real Property Act. I'll find it for you later if you like, Michelle. And it was something that I found because one of our local law firms was boasting on their website to their foreign clients. Now, so long as a property is 100% foreign owned, the treasurer has no more power to seize it.
Repeat that again.
For non-payment of real property taxes.
Repeat that, Mr. Allen.
Now, because of a provision introduced to the real property tax in 2015, boasted about on Higgs and Johnson's website, you can look it up, right? They're telling their clients the Bahamas is modernizing its real property tax act so that a property that is real property tax delinquent, the treasurer will no longer have the power to seize, power of sale over that property, so long as it is 100% foreign owned. That's the country we're living in. And the media, do they talk about it? I mean, the mainstream media, do they talk about it? You talk about it, Michelle, thank goodness. But do you see that in the front page of the main dailies? No, it's not. It's not. Either they tacitly agree and approve of this kind of setup that we have, or they just don't know because they're interested in short-term narratives. But yeah, that's the case now. Now you actually can't. Bahamians are actively discriminated against. On top of that, the government started talking about a year ago about finally coming after people for real property tax in a hard way. With, you know, they didn't say it, but obviously the power of sale is always the ultimate threat. But the catch is only New Providence. Now, what's different about New Providence and the rest of the islands? New Providence today, where the bulk of the Bahamian population live, so you're going after people's family homes, residential homes. The out islands, most properties, New Providence is where Bahamians pay real property tax. On the out islands, rightly, because of a previous government, Bahamians do not pay real property tax on properties owned in the out islands, right? Only foreigners.
I want you to pause a minute. We have a call coming in and I don't want to lose the call. So caller, welcome to GPS.
JT and Michelle.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to your guest. I didn't catch your Mr. Munning's full name because I tuned in late.
Whose full name? Mr. Andrew
your
Allen.
second guest. Oh, Mr. Andrew Allen.
Yes.
Oh, how you doing, sir? How you doing?
That's my mother's maiden name, so you're almost right.
Okay, understood. Couple of things that jump out at me as you were talking, Michelle. First of all, I don't understand, other than either stupidity or deliberate intent, why a government of the Bahamas is going to, as Mr. Allen just mentioned, about Higgs and Johnson's website. Was it, sir?
Yeah, it was Higgs and Johnson's website.
Where they have, where non-Bahamians are not. In other words, the government cannot foreclose on a non-Bahamian's property as long as it's 100% foreign owned.
Right.
Collect taxes.
That was the 2015 amendment. Yeah.
Who put that in there?
My guess, the BREA or some other interest group. The problem in the Bahamas is we have government by interest group, and both parties do it.
Yes, exactly.
Why
Yeah.
does the government? Why do you think if I'm the government, if I'm the prime minister of the Bahamas, and I'm deciding whether we should raise minimum wages given the cost of living in the Bahamas relative to people's wages, do you think I'm gonna get on the phone and call the Chamber of Commerce and ask their opinion? I would sooner ask my cat. I mean, what do they have to do with it? They have an interest in it, yes. They have a vested interest in it. Do they know better than anybody else, including my cat, what's good for the Bahamian economy in terms of the level of wages? Some of them will go out of business. The government's job is not to keep the present business community, the present people who are now at the head of the business community in business. That's not the government's job. You know, we talk about competition, and now you're changing the laws of the country and the conditions, the fundamental conditions of labor in the country to suit named individual businessmen. That's I mean, again, these kinds of things should lead to trials.
That's exactly what happened with the Atlanta situation.
Of course.
Changing laws to benefit the businesses as opposed to benefit your people.
To benefit a particular business. And so my guess is that the government huddled with some people with, you see, we have a problem in this country that's partly cultural. You know, so long as somebody has some sort of specialized degree or some, you know, or he's some you know, some big educational qualification, that person has more of a valid right. Their view is somehow more valid than the person, the entire Bahamian population that the politicians are supposed to be working for. You know, just because some group of specialists tells you something.
Yeah.
And so my guess,
necessarily right or should be accepted.
Right. My guess is it's some interest group. I'm sure if you checked it out, you'd see, as I say, that was on Higgs and Johnson's website. I guarantee senior lawyers, very wealthy, well off, senior lawyers would have huddled with the government. So this is what you have to do. The Bahamas Real Estate Association, again, narrow vested interests. and the government would have changed the law.
Allow me to ask you a very important question on that point there. Do you think, and this is only speculation on my part now, do you think that because of the IBCs that we have in this country, that Bahamians are actually setting up IBCs and actually buying properties that are owned by them through an IBC, but they're buying it here in the Bahamas and owning it and getting away with paying taxes from that point of view? You think that could be one of the motivating factors?
Obviously, that's happened a lot in the past. I don't know about now. The benefits, because of the adjustments we made when we complied with these international bodies over our,
international business companies.
Because the adjustments we made, some of the benefits have been eroded because of the so-called ring fencing has been eliminated. So some of the differentials in pricing and taxes in Bahamian companies, et cetera, and local companies and international companies has been eroded. But obviously things like that, if a property is now partly owned by a foreigner, it's not exempt from real property tax, but it's practically exempt, because if the government can't take it and sell it, what's a real property tax means nothing without that,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Something else I'd like to bring to your attention, Michelle, you and your guests, you may or may not know, I don't know if this is relevant for your show, but it's along the lines of Bahamian ownership and respect for Bahamians. Are you folks aware that this administration, and it started under Mr. Ingram, but this administration in particular has been expressing the interest to put in place what they call one of the business, the Lands Adjudication Act. It's not in law yet, as far as I know, but it's a bill. What that effectively will do is take away generational property and commonage land from Bahamians individually and families who do not have clear titles of those properties. The government, in effect, in my honest opinion, would be legally stealing people's lands from them. My words. Why does that concern me? If you and I have right to property in this country, ownership to property in this country, I don't care if it's sitting there for 1 million years or 2 days. No right and no government except for a clearly demonstrated public need, like for schools or bridges or roads or something like that, or hospital. In those cases, other than those cases, no government should facilitate, either under its own initiative or by special interest, taking away the birthright from the Bahamian citizenry when it comes to land. And that land adjudications bill is one of 3. I can't remember the other 2. But in effect, if any of you in there have properties, generation property or common land, and if you can prove that you've been squatting on the land for 12 years or more, then you would be given, according to that bill, only up to 1.5 acre and a half clear title to. Even if you had 100 acres or 5 acres or 1,000 acres, all of that would be taken away from you. Why? Because the special interest in the country wants to have that property so that they can go and develop it and sell it off and to make money off it. Why has not the government worked with Bahamian families to help them to get clear title to their property instead of trying to take the properties away from the Bahamian people?
So JT,
have any of you heard about?
That's a good question, right?
I've heard rumors, not just.
No, I didn't mean to change it, Michelle, but I honestly wanted to find out, since we're talking essentially about taxes and respecting or regarding we the Bahamian people,
right,
through governance. That is what prompted me to mention that, because to me, that is essentially along the same lines. When you're going to allow a foreigner to, if he 100% owns the property, you can't take his property to recoup the property taxes that he or she owes.
Right.
I mean, you're taking money out of my pocket as a taxpayer, out of your pocket, because the foreigner is not allowed or can't be penalized, but you're going to penalize me. But yet, while the government's going to penalize me for paying tax or higher taxes on me, they yet want to take away my birthright, something that I can use to make a living off of.
That is why we're calling it Robin Hood in reverse. But we got to take a break.
Thank you,
JT, thank you so much for calling, JT. We got to take a break. And then when we come back, we're going to look specifically at the question of income tax. Why all the resistance to income tax? We're going to look at that on the other side. Stay with us.
Photography at its best. Professional and quality service. Warren Grant Photography specializing in weddings, portraits, sunset images, events, and photo booth. Creating compelling images of life-changing events. Make that step today and call 242-424-5678 or email Warren_Grant251@yahoo.com or check out our website at www.warrengrantphotography.com. Facebook and Instagram, Warren Grant Photography. We change moments into memories.
Ocean blue is the best in seafood. Hey, hey, fresh out the water and affordable too. Yeah. We got fish, conch, lobster, shrimp, everything you want. Ocean blue got it. Ocean blue, friendly and clean, best service you ever seen. Ocean blue is the best in seafood. Yeah. Fresh out the water and affordable too. Yeah. Ocean blue seafood, we are here for you. Ocean blue seafood, no one else will do. Ocean Blue Seafood, located on Bernard Road. Contact us at 393-2160.
Horton's Car Rental and Auto Sales, Robinson Road and 5th Street, The Grove, is your premium choice for affordable transportation. We have reliable cars at unbelievable prices. Ask about our daily rates, starting at $50, and our weekly rates, starting as low as $280. Call us at 437-4017 or 676-3977. Horton's Car Rental, your premium choice for affordable transportation.
Looking for an extraordinary junior high school with caring, qualified staff and affordable tuition? Then come visit us at Elite School of Excellence, an affiliate of First Step Academy. ABECA-focused and Ministry of Education approved, we foster discipline, integrity, and wisdom while molding our students for success. Call us at 341-8846 or stop by First Step Academy Schools on Fire Trail and Soldy Roads for more information. Escape from the city life to Bacon Air Beach Resort in Pirateswell, Mayaguana. Relax in one of 16 air-conditioned rooms just steps away from the ocean. Enjoy scrumptious dishes in our waterfront dining room. Sip on a tropical cocktail, or if you must, stay connected with wireless internet. Nestled on one of the most beautiful beaches in the Bahamas, Bacon Air Beach Resort offers a unique vacation experience. For reservations, call 339-3726 or 463-0182.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
And we're back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and my guests are Andrew Allen and KCX, and we're talking taxation, Robin Hood in reverse. Why our leaders are so comfortable, it seems, just plundering the poor to benefit the few wealthy. I want to read a couple of the comments here on our Facebook thread. Let's see. Hilary DeVos says, it seems like a deliberate sabotage of our economy with our very own leaders overseeing it. Shake my head. Let's see. Quite a lot of comments, y'all. I'm going to try to get through as many of them as we can. Stacy says, the deal is bad for the Bahamian people, but trust and believe they got their big bucks under the table. Okay. Bertha says, the government collected the most tax dollars than every government in history of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and nothing to show for it. Mind-boggling. Let's see. Oswald says, Michelle, one of the problems with our political leaders, past and present, is they have been leading our country scared. That's an interesting concept. Okay. One more from Isaac. Isaac says, the Bahamas is too rich to be begging for investment. We are the land of milk and honey. God is our rock and protector. And we'll take one more from Sylvie. Both governments' negotiating skills for the benefits of its populace is deplorable and points to ignorance on the item or service being negotiated on. Honestly, Sylvie is quite correct as it relates to the negotiating skills. I don't understand why our governments don't try to get some kind of arbitrator who can be the go-between, because time after time we find out after the fact what has been negotiated on our behalf, and it leaves us holding our head saying, what in the world were y'all thinking? So perhaps the time has come, honestly, for us to look at moving that the negotiating aspect of this out of the hands of the politicians, because clearly they don't have a clue. What are your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
One of your posters said why we didn't need value-added tax. And why I like this show today is because Andrew Allen, he comes from a certain direction. I come from the other direction. I come from the globalist direction, and I know what the agenda and the end game truly is. When we become, God forbid, if we were to sign on to the WTO, the World Trade Organization, we would have to reduce the taxes at the borders and lose about 80% of our revenue. That was the main reason for the VAT implementation. The government had to find another way without taxing the rich people in this country because of the system that we're in, also find a way to replace the revenue lost at the borders. And trust me, the only people that are paying these are us, the poor people, and the average citizens, the middle class. Year before last, in 2019, the government of the Bahamas, listen to this, during a hurricane season, the hurricane year, the government of the Bahamas boasts that this was a record year on tax collection in Grand Bahama. They boast that they made $19 million in value-added tax alone off the backs of the port during a storm-riddled year. So it's the system that they have designed that is working perfectly. And when I hear a conversation as if, why are they doing this? These people know exactly what they're doing. You hear them use terminologies, and understand this. I know you've just heard these terms like single window market, government procurement, click to clear, single window market. All of these things are government procurements. These are language of the WTO. Everything that I just said, all you put is WTO in the front of it. Google it. WTO, click to clear. WTO, single window market. WTO. All of these things are geared towards a one world government, a WTO. This government, and I say government because it's both administrations, they have sold us out. And I stand on my word. I can prove it. This is what we've been fighting against all of these years. From 2001, this is the only country where it's taken this long to become a part of it because of our advocacy against it. The government can't do anything. And mind you, they can, but they refuse to.
Trifina has a comment on Facebook that is sort of reinforcing what you just said, KCX. And what Trifina says is it's deliberate intent, everything they do. Do you gentlemen believe, well, Alan, let's hear from you, Mr. Allen. Do you believe that this is deliberate intent?
I think insofar as what Casey has just mentioned, the border tax being replaced by something other than a tax on the wealthy, and yet still a tax on the poor, but avoiding the border tax, because that is the WTO's main object is to bring down taxes, border taxes, barriers to trade and entry, right? So yeah, that is true, and so they do know what they're doing when they do something like that. I question whether the average member of parliament or the average prime minister even understands what they're doing in terms of its long-term effect and short-term on the Bahamian economy, because it doesn't really benefit them. There's a reason why we've had one-term governments since 1997. That was the last government. The one elected in 92 was the last two-term government. There's a reason for that, because the Bahamas has been on a downward trend when it comes to the average person's living standards vis-a-vis the cost of living. And the average person in the Bahamas is fully aware that he's living in a wealthy country. It's not Jamaica, and it's not some of the other Caribbean countries. The average Bahamian knows the country's wealthy. And he also knows that his disposable income is being more and more compromised by a cost structure which is completely out of whack. And all of this comes from the same place, from these same policies. So I think they know what they're doing in the short term. I think they think, for instance, somebody tells them, oh, this is what you're supposed to do to join the WTO. Everybody's joining the WTO. It's the modern thing to do. And so they think, okay, well, you replace VAT, you replace duties with VAT. But do they know what they're doing to the Bahamian economy? I don't think so, because if they did, they'd realize that you're not going to have. I mean, whoever's holding the government at the time of every election is thrown out. You know, this is a manifestation of public anger, and when the public gets angry, they don't necessarily even know what they're angry at. They don't pinpoint the policies in particular. They're angry, and you had this situation in the United States. The country could have gone to Donald Trump, or it could have gone to somebody like Bernie Sanders. People's anger is manifested in different directions. The same thing here. People know there's something wrong, and they've known that for 30 years. When we had the pending government in power for 25 years, 25 years. But
Yeah.
since 97, that government elected in 92, we have not had another government reelected, because the things that are causing the pain to the average person are being compounded, and these are the very things. The VAT.
I agree with you. I dare say that for the last 2-3 elections, people have not been voting for a government. They've been voting against what they don't want anymore.
Yeah.
That is exactly what's been happening. I want to go to a couple of comments, and then we're going to play our next clip. This one says, this is Isaac. He says, this is intentional. They have clause in those bills for a reason. There's absolutely no excuse. That's a comment from Isaac. Dwayne says, I am now locked in on this show. I would not watch another The Hottest on the Airwave. Well, thank you, Dwayne. I want you to still watch National Access, though. We call this double play for a reason. Adrian Francis and Jonette come on from 9 to 11, and then I follow up from 11 to 1. So watch everybody, okay, on this station. Nobody else station. But check us all out here on Glory 93.9 FM. Dwayne says, boy, Bahamians, if y'all don't love this show today, something is really wrong with us. Real topic, real situation, a real host that brings the real info to us. Thank you for the love, Dwayne. I appreciate that. I like this one. Chantel says, let's call it robbery without a gun. Okay, so listen, we all know it. Some of us try to pretend that it's not the case, but we all know that they scared to tax the rich. They scared. My philosophy is that the rich are the puppet masters who controlling them on a string, and when they say dance, they have to dance, and so they don't want to do anything to cut those strings. And I have my own personal reasons why that is the way it is. So we have to ask ourselves the question, why are they so afraid to tax the rich? And I'm going to let you respond, Mr. Allen, after this clip. Let's go ahead and take the clip, please. Clip number 3.
What are we going to do about taxation in this House? Because there cannot be any way that we will justify discrimination against Bahamians in this day and age. Bring the debate these guys don't want, the debate on income tax. that the FNM doesn't want because it goes against their constituents. Bring it to this House, and let's now talk about equality and equity in the way we treat our people. And let's finally get to the point where we admit that what we are calling a national debt, which is the difference between what we earned and spent for 40 years of independence, is equivalent to the tax break we gave to the rich for 40 years of independence. Let's talk about it. And how do we go forward without equalizing that and making sure the people in this House, those of us who earn more than most of those out there, start paying our share so that they don't have to carry those heavy burdens? Let's talk about it.
That I agree with in its entirety.
Go ahead and respond, Mr. Allen, because you've been wanting to jump in before I even played the clip. Go ahead and
That clip I agree with in its entirety. Greg Moss is absolutely right. It's fiction when we talk about, this big national debt. That national debt is equal to the tax break we've given to the rich. That's all, right? But getting back to this point, right? They're afraid. I like something else that Greg Moss said. He didn't say both parties are afraid. He said the FNM is afraid. It's the FNM that's afraid. The PLP doesn't do it for other reasons, right?
Well, what are those reasons, pray tell? Why?
The people who benefit from it, they're not going to vote PLP anyway. Trust me.
So
they're not going to vote.
Why is the PLP not doing this then? If they're not going to benefit from not doing
because
it,
because they're not smart for the most part. That's the only reason. No, I'm being honest with you. The FNM don't do it because they know.
How do you really feel, Mr. Allen?
The FNM don't. I tell them all the time. The FNM don't do it because they know they are. I know who supports the FNM. I mean, if I have an argument with the FNM, I'm not going to argue with Hubert Ingram or Hubert Minnis. I'm going to call the people that own the FNM, and I know them. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to go to your house and argue with your gardener about your landscaping. I mean, hey, Joseph, where's Big Daddy? The people who run the FNM, I know them. I wouldn't waste my time arguing with them because they're not going to go against their financial interests, right? The FNM politicians don't own the FNM. These are just the people who are carrying out their instructions. That's the difference. The PLP does not benefit one iota from not taxing the rich. In fact, it harms them because let me give you an example. In the last election, in the last term in office, the big issue, in my opinion, was national health insurance. That was the huge issue that would have had a huge, fundamental, irreversible change in this country's economy and society, right? Perry Christie, again, they just don't think very hard, goes and engages for discussion on national health insurance. He goes and engages with the private health insurance companies and wasted 5 years back and forth with private health insurers. That's like the farmer going to the local fox and asking for him to help construct the hen house. You know, you're going to the private health insurers to help to consult, not consulting with the people who are the ultimate people who are the beneficiaries or the sufferers of the system that we have. You're going to the private health insurance companies. They're not going to vote PLP anyway. I know these people. They wouldn't vote PLP if they have anti-PLP in their genes, right? The people that own the private insurance company, and some of them are nice people. Some of them are friends of mine. I wouldn't talk politics with them because it wouldn't go anywhere. But these interests aren't going to vote PLP anyway. In fact, a huge dollop of the money that went into defeating the PLP in the last election came from the private insurance company. Came from the Nassau Guardian. Is owned by Kalina, but the same group that owns Kalina that makes tens of millions of dollars every year of selling insurance to government employees, private insurance. They would lose tens of millions of dollars in business if we had national health insurance. Do you think the Nassau Guardian is going to be fair and balanced about that? So absolutely. The FNM does it. He's right. The FNM they represent the people who benefit from having the poor to pay their bills. You know, the poor pay for the FNM's clients. The poor pay for them to live a tax-free life. The poor basically work and support them. Like these people are they're like welfare queens. These rich people here. They're living off of the poor who take care of them. The poor are their baby daddy, right? The PLP. It's just dumb. They're just dumb. For them not to. If the PLP had not allowed if the PLP had introduced income tax on corporate income 20 years ago, the money that you see the FNM using to fight the PLP in elections wouldn't be there because it would have been taxed away. The big corporations that all put millions and millions of dollars behind the FNM, no matter what happens, doesn't matter who runs the FNM, as much as they don't like Minnis in private, as much as they hold their breath in private, dislike the man intensely, but they know where their interest lies. Their interest lies in a party that they feel they can control. These people are never going to vote PLP. And if the PLP had any sense, if I were the leader of the PLP, they wouldn't have any money in 5 years. They would be broke because they would have been taxed. Well, they'd be relatively broke. They wouldn't have the money to put into. So there is a distinction between the two parties. One's evil and one's stupid, basically. I got to be honest.
That's really not much of a choice. Not much of a choice.
No, there is a choice. You can talk to the stupid party, and you can make them see sense. I wouldn't waste my time with the FNM. With the PLP, I try to talk to members of the PLP.
I
there is a choice.
I have to point of order here. If you're going to go with who you should talk to, you can't talk to stupid person when they don't
When
have.
I say stupid, okay, that may be a strong word.
I'm almost done.
Yeah.
All right. You can't tell me after you just said it. They're stupid. All right. They come in. They complain when they're in opposition about what's wrong with the country and how stupid the deals are. And I'm using your words. All right. And you do nothing about it. How you expect to get something sensible from a stupid people? You're going down the alley. I want us to stay right here. You know, because
I use that strong language, but it makes me.
The experts claim that we got over $5 trillion on the offshore bank not being taxed. What is the benefit of the Bahamian people? We trade over $3 trillion in goods and services now,
guys,
not being taxed.
I want you to stick a pin in it because I don't want to lose this call. We
Go
have
ahead.
a caller on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Yes, how you doing, Michelle?
Hey, C. Allen. Good. How are you?
Mr. Allen and KCX.
Hey, G, what's up?
Yeah, just a couple of points. Let me first go to the property tax. In 2014 or around 2013, right after the Progressive Party won the last election, I led a group of individuals that began to advocate for collecting the taxes on properties by virtue of selling tax certificates. Essentially, the way tax certificate works is that the government will collect 100% of its taxes whenever it's due, because when you don't pay your taxes, you'll sell a tax certificate with a reasonable interest, 6%, 10%, 12% attached to the public domain. And if you don't pay your taxes, your property will be sold, and it'll be even your first mortgage will be subject to the tax lien. The tax lien will be superior to the mortgage. And you would basically have banks and owners paying their taxes immediately, because essentially I can go buy a $50,000 tax certificate on a piece of property, and if you don't pay it within a certain amount of time, I'll own the $20 million property. So those taxes will be collected on the basis. The Auditor General found about $600 million is uncollected. My data and collection estimate that is in excess of $1 billion if we was to do a thorough audit of all the properties across the Bahamas. And so, again, it's the practice of, and so essentially about 2015 is under the last administration, noting that people began to gain ground immediately. A law came to basically stop you from basically seizing the properties, and so that you only could be special interests that moved to protect that environment. And so, but when you talk about a progressive tax regime, and this is why, for people to understand, this is why we're going to have an election before, right around the same time as the budget, because it's absolutely two choices the government has. It's like Mr. Allen said, you actually reduce the public service and government corporations, tax the poor people, or come with a progressive tax. A progressive tax is not an option under this administration. And so in essence, what they want to do is not have the budget debate, run to an early election, and then if they're secured in it, they will say, you have to do it because of this initiative raise VAT to 15% or whatever. And the PLP will come in and they will immediately go to the like how it was deal with Alexander Minnesota, they'll go to the lazy way and say, okay, good, let's go to the 15%. And once given that, like you say, given an inch, they're not going to come back. They're not going to step back from it. And so this is where it's an excellent conversation, and I agree with Mr. Allen. We have to have this conversation now and get the leadership to answer. Well, are we going to have progressive tax? Or are we going to go back to the regressive tax? And this should be part of their manifesto that's released in the shortest order as to exactly what they're going to do to reform the tax regime in the Bahamas, because the Bahamian people, with 40 to 60, maybe 75% of them not working, how then do you put additional taxes on their backs?
See, Alan,
yes.
How does the global agenda fit into this taxation?
Well, I believe, I know the global, there is some always international influences, but I believe, and I agree with Mr. Allen, we are in such a unique position that we can make our own determination. And so it's not just saying we need to reject globalization.
No.
In fact, this one second case, in fact, we say to you is that the globalization agenda has been disrupted. And so what we have to do is not just simply say that we need to go back in time, to just like passing the baton backwards, is we have to have a conversation is how do we adjust for this new global economic reality in a purely digital, hyper-connected environment for which we exist in. And see, the problem is that we keep having conversation about the past and not demanding that they define the future. And I think your argument is correct, but at the same time, we have to have a solution-based conversation, not just simply saying reject it, because the typical Bahamian do not understand what are they rejecting or what there is to replace it. But I think they would understand a move for ownership. And so when you have the conversation that the digitalization of the world has democratized the economies of the world or will democratize it, and they can actually begin to own it, then I think Bahamians are hungry, broken, disgusted. And so I think there'll be more attention when we combine a message of ownership as to why it should be rejected, at the same time making a demand for systematic change in the way we are governed. Let's use an example. We run the government of the Bahamas is day by day. We don't have 1 year, 3 year, 5 year budgets. Every single day we say money in, money out, money in, money out. Look at the budget. Because we have no system. We could actually change our tax regime. We could estimate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in advance what we would collect. And I put to you that if you was to have an honest taxation conversation, we could probably double our tax collection. We could go from this 2.5 or whatever we collect in taxes to maybe as much as $5 billion just by going to income tax. And so when you look at the fact that our economy in the last 3 years has grown $1.9 billion, we're still using the $12 billion figure. The IMF alone is using $13.9 billion, and that doesn't account the informal economy. So the problem we have is not a money problem; it's more of a leadership problem that we are having. But nobody wants to have an open, honest conversation. And so what happens is individuals like Alan and myself and others get drowned in the noise of the marketplace because they have mastered the very people who doesn't want to be taxed owns the media. Media drives the conversation.
Ain't that something?
Right. And so what I'm simply saying is that, so what you have is, you have so many people who have ambition greater than their abilities who begin to find a single talking point rather than having a full conversation. And then the media gives them access that they know that this foolishness would drown out the truth. And so what we have to do is that, we just have to have a more intelligent, because we're having more conversation about talk rather than thought. And they thrive on this, and they thrive on those individuals who are seeking to become them, knowing that these individuals don't have a chance. I'm not going to hold us long. But Michelle, I want you to imagine this. Based on the Bahamas GDP, every working person in the Bahamas, not the GDP, let's go to the workforce. If they would make $67,000 a year. If they save every dime, they would be, I want you to pay attention to this figure. If they save every dime, they would be a millionaire in 15 years. I listen to this very careful. Do you know it would take them 15,000 years to catch up to Brent Simonet?
My God.
15,000. Because if Brent has 1,000 million, they'll have a million. And he has 1,000 million. This is not him. I just use him as an example.
Yes, I get it.
There's hundreds of them. But if he has 1,000 million, that means if it took them 15 years to reach their first million, it'll take them 1,000 times that. So it'll take them 15 years just to catch up with him. So those oligarchs and special interests in our country have an advantage that we can begin to measure, but we will not have we just won't have that conversation. But Casey, you're absolutely correct. We need to ignore the global agenda, but they keep pushing us to do from the outside and embrace what we are capable of from within inside, from our geopolitical location, our resources, not just the natural resources, but some intellectual resources that we possess. We can begin to play at the plate. You know, what Biden called Canada, he called Mexico, but he didn't call the third border the third border of his country. Why is that? When we supply $3 trillion worth of commerce through our borders to his country, it's because we haven't demanded the respect that we deserve, because we keep putting, like you say, stupid people and special interests in governance and we don't ask the right questions, so we keep getting the wrong answer.
Stupid people and special interests.
I want to apologize for using that word, right?
No.
In the case
Don't apologize. Don't apologize for.
No, Michelle, let me tell you. Let me just end this. Let me show what stupid is. An ignorant person don't know any better. Okay, and I just can put this in context for him. An idiot person, you told the ignorant person, if you put your hand in that hole, you'll lose your hand. And the ignorant person says, "Thank you for telling me I won't do it." The idiot puts his hand in the hole anyway and loses a hand, and he said, "Oh boy, I learned my lesson." The stupid person put the next hand in because he's trying to prove it again. So when we have people who keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, knowing it didn't work the last time and the time before then and the time before then, it isn't stupid in who they are. It is stupid in what they do.
Well, Forrest Gump did say stupid is and stupid does. We have to take a break, guys. Thank you so much for calling. See, Alan, we are 8 minutes past our time for a break. So let's take this quick break, and then we're going to just bring this all to a head on the other side. Stay with us.
Bishop Denzel Road, General Superintendent and the Executive Council of the Highway Church of God, Bahamas, invites you to attend its 56th Annual General Convention under the theme, Arise, a Call to Duty. Convening February 17th through 21st, 6:30 p.m. nightly at Southland Church of God, Soldier Road. Speakers include Bishop Denzel Road, Bishop Carvin Bain, Pastor Rakino Monker, Bishop Robert McPhee, and Bishop Eric Josie. There will also be a special midday oil and water service on Thursday, the 18th at 12 p.m. with Apostle Raymond Wells. That's the Highway Church of God, Bahamas' General Convention, February 17th through 21st, 6:30 p.m. nightly at the Southland Church of God. It's time to arise.
Best dress, hats off, looking like I walked out of catalog. Everybody wanna know where I got it from. Catwalk, 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 boutique, where we make fashion statements. Catwalk, boutique, where we make fashion statements.
For the latest styles in women's clothing and accessories, visit Catwalk Boutique on Robertson Road East at the Helron Plaza. At Catwalk Boutique, we make fashion statements.
Want to look your best and feel even better? Visit JD Edwards Salon and Spa for the ultimate beauty, body, and anti-aging treatments, offering custom colors, haircuts, vegan anti-freeze treatments, silk blowouts, natural and acrylic nails, unisex pedicures, facials and massages, all waxing services, and microcurrent therapies for anti-aging and body sculpting. JD Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madeira Street, telephone 326-7863. At the Gladstone Road Farmers Market, we provide you with the freshest produce, eggs, meat, and more. But what you don't see makes a difference too, like the care our farmers put into growing and raising that food for your family, the fewer miles that food travels from the farm to your plate, and the dollars you are keeping in our local community. Our open-air market is every Friday and Saturday. Come visit us, and be sure to look for the GPS-endorsed flyer. COVID-19 has affected all of us, but it won't stop us from serving you with a smile, even under the mask. Gladstone Road Farmers Market, home of fresh.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Youngevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
Everyone depends on hospitals, roads, police and schools. But they're expensive, and governments across the world are feeling the pinch. So how can we continue in the future to afford good quality public services? Why has pressure on public services increased? Populations are aging. As the number of retirees grows, working people are going to have to pay more taxes to support them. And as healthcare technology improves, the cost of healthcare is also going to rise. But where to find the cash? Basically, governments can tax three things: income, consumption, or wealth. It's not your imagination. Income taxes really have been increasing over the past 50 years. The evidence shows that taxes on income, including corporation tax, discourage people from working. Countries with low income taxes, such as the UK, tend to have stronger economic growth. Second, consumption. This is things like sales tax in America or value-added tax on purchases in Europe. One problem with consumption taxes is that they hit poorer people hardest, who spend more of their income on day-to-day expenses. Third, we have wealth taxes. This could be a better idea than taxing income or consumption. This is partly because it places a higher levy on the things that rich people have, such as property and investments. Some economists advocate something called a land value tax. And this is basically where you tax the value of plots of land, and this could raise a lot of money. A land value tax has very few unintentional bad consequences. The problem is that taxing wealth is not politically easy. Homeowners, for instance, are going to be furious if they're asked to pay higher property taxes. But if people want good government services, it's going to need money. Taxes on wealth are always unpopular, but sooner or later, governments are going to have to bite the bullet.
All right, we are talking about taxation in the Bahamas. I'm calling this show Robin Hood in Reverse because the idea is that it seems that the wealthy are benefiting from the plundering of the poor, and our taxes are being used to do that. Now, we just saw that video from The Economist. Gentlemen, I want to get you in on this in terms of what that video suggested as it relates to the three types of taxation. Taxation on income, consumption, or wealth. And I know, Mr. Allen, that you are a proponent of income tax, but what are your thoughts on wealth tax as outlaid in that video? Do you think that is something that could work here in the Bahamas, or do you think that ours is a unique situation that would not work for?
It would certainly work in the Bahamas. How we're unique is that video doesn't apply to the Bahamas. That video is probably in the UK, a country
Right.
that most of its taxes are already on income. So when he says lower taxes on income help to propel the economy, first take into account that the UK isn't doing very well right now. Secondly, he's talking about lower income taxes. The UK,
Right.
I think the
Lower than, in essence, that income taxes already exist. So
he's not talking about zero income tax, which is insane.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. The second thing, he's talking about wealth tax. Again, the Bahamas has a different demographic sort of makeup and a different profile, right? He talks about wealth taxes. He's talking about the UK is a country of 65 million people. Only the fringes are wealthy and poor, and he's talking about taxes on middle class people's homes, wealth tax, right? Most of the wealth in the UK resides with the middle class. And the Bahamas has a different profile altogether. They have a very small population and a lot of very rich people, right, who have between them so much wealth in land, etc., property, that we would not have to extend deep into our middle class for wealth taxes in order to make a very, very large contribution or very large increase to our tax yield. We would only have to do what that 2015 real property tax amendment specifically said we shouldn't do, we won't do, which is to tax very wealthy properties at the same rate or even close and progressively as they do in other countries, and the countries these people come from and are used to paying. So in the Bahamas, wealth tax means real property tax, essentially. It doesn't mean capital gains. These things are relatively small. In the Bahamas, the biggest item of wealth tax would be tax on wealthy people's real estate. And that's where we fall behind dramatically. You mentioned at the beginning of the show that one letter from Lightfoot Key, when the government was rumored, I don't think they were going to do it, but it was rumored they were going to get rid of an actual cap, a cash cap, which means that the very wealthy people, in the case of somebody who owns a $10 million home in Lightfoot Key, is only paying about less than 0.25%, less than 0.5%, right, as a percentage, whereas somebody with a house in Golden Gates is paying 1.25%. So wealth taxes are would be ideal for a country like the Bahamas if we put more emphasis on making, and on top of that, you have to realize when Mr. Ingram repealed the Immovable Property Act in the Bahamas and let foreigners buy properties, that wasn't a move that was necessarily popular with the Bahamian population. Selling foreigners real estate in the Bahamas, allowing foreigners to have so much real estate holders in the Bahamas, is a controversial thing. It's something that has negative sides to it. It prices Bahamians, the cost of real estate in Providence 3 times the average of Florida, of middle income parts of Florida. So there's a negative side to it. Of course, in repealing that and in liberalizing it, the government should immediately have made sure that we were reaping real tax benefits from, and taking property that's delinquent and reselling it. Mr. Seattle Johnson mentioned tax certificates. Perfect, very good idea. They would operate as a first charge. So it would invigorate the local business community. It would a source of investment for local entrepreneurs, a new investment opportunity. Wealth taxes will be ideally suited to a country with the demographic profile that the Bahamas has. Plenty rich people, very much luxury property in a country with only 400,000 people. Real income tax too. We need income tax. In the Bahamas, again, we don't have to do it as savagely as they have done it in the UK. We could say only people earning over $100,000 a year, because right now we've got nothing. So you'd still exempt the vast majority of people, but you would have a tremendous amount of income of tax coming in.
Okay, I want to go. You want to add to that?
Yeah.
Quick? Yeah.
Well, looking from my background, being an activist, I always ask after a conversation, a show packed with information. I always ask, what are we going to do?
Well, yeah, that was, let me go to this text first, comment first, and then that's going to lead us to that question.
Yeah.
This comment is coming from Doris Johnson, who says, it seems like a type of slavery, but our own people are hiring us out, or are the middlemen? Are the Bahamian governments actually running the Bahamas or running it down? I am deeply concerned about these revelations. What can we as a people do? That's the next question. What's next? What are your thoughts, gentlemen? Casey, you could go ahead and get started with that.
Well, when a government I hate the term, in first world country does something that goes against the ideas and the ideologies of the individuals of that country, you don't have to organize for people to hit the streets. Millions of people take to the streets and they say, no, we want better. We, first of all, as citizens, need to understand our worth. We can't allow a few people to do this to our children's future. We're the men and women in this country who will say, no, this is not right. And I'm not just going to wait for an election day. I'm not just going to wait around for the government to just destroy the future of my grandchildren. Where are those men and women? I'm challenging everyone that is listening to this, that the next time you hear KCX and Enough Movement or whomever we stand, let's make it an effort to get out there. We have to let our voices be heard collectively. These are only men, and corporations are running countries now, and we cannot allow that to happen in a country that we call home. We pick on the Bay Street Boys, but we could deal with the Bay Street Boys. But now if we allow them to go global, we got corporations are going to be stepping in. You got the Pepsis and the Cokes are going to be coming in here, and we're going to lose everything. This conversation, I'm having the conversation from the end game. I see where they want to take us, and I see this is the most important thing to stop. Now, when it comes to the solution is simple. We're a very young country. The country is so young, we can use the world as a manual. We don't need to wonder what taxation is best. There is a taxation that's working for the people now in terms of their natural resources, our geographical location. If you think about it, compared to none, we separate the old world from the new. They got to use us. They need more of us than we need of them. We don't need these treaties. But we need to, first of all, own something. We own absolutely nothing right now. There's no benefit of being a Bahamian. And we're losing it because we wait for 5 years to vote these same people in. One, Mr. Allen called stupid. We just waiting to run back to stupid. This is a real conversation for me because I have a grandson home. He says, Grandpa, where you going? You going to fight for my future? He's 5. He needs a future. And if we just talk about these things, he's not going to have a future. That's the angle the activist sees it in. That I can't allow a few men, especially the ones I grew up with, who are in politics right now, the weakest set of men that I grew up with, they're in politics. The weakest set of men that was in my neighborhood, they're in politics. This is very personal for me because they was weak when we was growing up. Now they're weak politicians. They puppets. Time to stop this.
Mr. Allen? Mr. Allen?
I would say, firstly, the thing about stupid is it can learn, right? I mean, obviously it's very frustrating to see these things happen over and over again. So you use strong language sometimes, but I do have some confidence in the ability of the political system, so long as the people are educated and know the issues. And we're at a disadvantage when we have a mainstream media which either distracts us or itself doesn't know the issue, either intentionally distracts or itself doesn't know the issues. I think that it's important to talk to your representatives. I think that, again, if your representative is an FNM, I think you're wasting your time. But if your representative is an independent or a PLP, let them know that that isn't working for the Bahamas. Let them know that when it comes to discussions of taxation, you want income tax on the rich. It is good for you. It's good for your pocket. It's good for the Bahamas for you to pay less of the burden of supporting this country. That now. You've been told. You know that the Bahamas is run in an abnormal fashion. It isn't normal that the average person is paying huge consumption taxes and the wealthy are paying zero income tax. It isn't normal that, as you now know, wealthy foreigners owning luxury properties have the benefit of knowing that they can't be taken away by the treasurer, right? There's nothing normal about that. So PLPs, certainly, independents and anybody who's not specifically of the party that's funded by the special interests, need to know that you don't benefit. Even as I said, the PLP politicians don't benefit from it. This money comes back to vote to get them out of office. The money that they allow to remain in the hands of the regressive recipients of our regressive tax system comes back to remove them from office. It doesn't make any sense. So talk to your MPs, talk to politicians, and know the issues that affect you and your wallet, and that those are the most important issues in the Bahamas. Don't let anybody tell you that there's anything more important, any issue more important to the Bahamas than the issues that affect the average man.
I want to give you both an opportunity to give us your final thoughts, but I'm going to read one more comment, and this will lead into you giving us your final thoughts on this. This is from Sarah. Sarah says, "Hi, Michelle. I believe that consecutive governments have the unspoken yes or massa mentality After all these years, they are still intimidated by the white men, which is why they never speak out or stand up for the rights or benefits of the masses. This is more evident when you consider the people they are negotiating with are most often the ones who have the gold, and he who has the gold makes the rules. So what Sarah is suggesting is that this goes beyond stupidity or evil. This just goes to who is controlling our economy, have been for generations, and whether you are on the side of stupid or evil, that's not going to change. What are your thoughts on that? Final thoughts for both of you. I'll give you each 1 minute because we're like 3 minutes left in the show.
My 1 minute. I would say that no, I disagree. That I do agree that there's that mentality, but the people who they bow down to don't necessarily have any gold. I can tell you of a Colombian window cleaner that came in here cleaning windows because they couldn't find Bahamians who wanted to go up to the top of Atlantis. Ended up owning a company. The company was taking home $11,000 a month. The cleaning company in Atlantis, right? I'll tell you that. You can look it up. The people had his name on there. I brought it to the attention of the authorities. This is a foreigner. He's a window cleaner. How did he get this job? Well, had some deal with one of the foreign managers at the hotel, right? And the people in immigration were like, they treated him like he's some sort of above question because of their hang-ups and racial hang-ups and all the rest, right? This man didn't have any money, none at all, right? So it's not reality they're reacting to. They're reacting to what's in their heads. In the reality, the Bahamas is in a very strong position. You see investors here because we have incredible comparative advantages in the industries that they're involved in. Atlantis is here because they make a lot of money here. Same with Bahamar, same with the container port, same with anybody else. So I disagree that there's any rational reason for this yes sir mentality. It exists. There's no rational reason for it. It should be gone. We should abolish it. And I think that yes, you are right. It's hindering us, but not because of the reasons that you may think. The reasons are internal.
Let's get KCX with your final thoughts. We got 1 minute.
Let me say thank you so much for having me. Let me say hi to my good friend in Freeport, Chantel Ryan. How you doing? Michelle, the bottom line is this. The conversation that we're having, it needs to be had from the end game. For instance, he talked about a window cleaner. Find out who's putting the air conditioning inside the new dormitory at the University of the Bahamas. How did he get that job? The Bahamas has something operating now called the single window market, where all the government purchases and their contracts goes in this market, this single window market, where now 164 other nations can bid on these jobs. And that person got that job from that same single. He's never been to the Bahamas. And all he did was subcontract that job out to Bahamian. That's where we're at. All right. I just want to thank you so much for having me. And these are the kind of conversation that we need to have. Thank you so much.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having you both. Thank you so much for this engaging conversation. People like and share the show. Like and share this show. We got to get the word out, y'all. Y'all heard that the oligarchs pretty much own the media elsewhere, but they don't own this. The truth has a new home. Yeah. Thank you guys for being here. Listen, y'all, it's been a pleasure. Tomorrow is going to be a little different. Tomorrow I'm going to have a co-host in the person of Bishop Denzel Roll. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting as we take part in that discussion that's going to be taking place tomorrow. So definitely tune in. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thanks so much for being a part of GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. Have a good one, everyone.